I'm just going to the YouTube channel, President Bailey, to make sure that we're up and running. Okay, we're live.
So I'll call, reconvene to open session at 6:09 and call the meeting to order. Reporting out final action in closed session. And we will be returning to closed session after open to further discuss, but we did take 2 action. Trustee Babcock's absent during close, but the board did approve the stipulation, Ray expulsion, suspension of the expulsion, waiver of hearing, and related rights in order for student 2202 with 4-0 vote. And the board also accepted the resignation of Superintendent Walker effective June 30th, 2022. Mrs. Walker has accepted a position at Lake County Office of Education. So again, I just wanted to report that we will return back to closed after open. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. So do we have anything that needs to move? And if there...
Well, I think we should put Dana Gray before now. No, I don't.
Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
Mary, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, seeing no opposed, so moved. And do we have public comment on agenda items, which would be regarding benchmark data presentations?
So we had one public comment, but it's not an agenda item, so I will forward it to the April 21st regular board meeting.
Okay, very good, thank you.
And I will also send that public comment to all of you so that you can read it beforehand.
Great, thank you. So our next item on the agenda is benchmarks data presentation, and we do have Redwood Elementary Principal Lundy Erickson to present. Thank you.
Thank you so much. He's pulling up the slides. Just a moment. So I am Lundy Erickson, the principal at Redwood Elementary, and I'm really excited to share with you about our students' progress. But before I get into the details about that, and with Mr. Kale's permission,
Oh, that's why I can't see it. I'm looking on the screen here. I'm like, there's no. I got you.
there we go.
Okay, now I get it.
All of our teachers gathered last Wednesday over at Dana Gray, and with Kelly Smith's guidance, but really under the power of our teams of teachers, they went through all of the second benchmark iReady data and compared it to the performance from our students the first round, and then made those comparisons and really took some amazing time and energy looking at it really carefully to figure out, you know, what worked, what didn't. Should we continue these strategies? Should we discontinue those? And it was really exciting to see our teachers working with each other and hearing them have those conversations about data. It was very satisfying. So, and at Redwood, I can share that during our weekly PLC meetings, when teachers gather together, they have continued to go back to the site action plan and their grade level action plan, and they're looking at that on a weekly, sometimes a bi-monthly basis to make sure that they're on track. We are definitely moving forward with academics, which is great to see. And I'm especially proud of the work that our teachers are doing at Redwood because there are so many behavior disruptions. The kids are making the progress that they're making with students running out of the room, with students not having had in-person instruction for over a year for some of them, with students who've never attended preschool before and who are acclimating to the school environment. So I'm really proud of everybody involved and glad to share this information with you. Would you go to the next slide? Oh, would you go to the next? Wow, I get to boss her around for a minute. So our teams went through a whole process of various questions, but we really pared it down to these two ultimate slides, data statements and then their action plans. So our kindergarten team noted that there was substantial growth in phonological awareness and phonics. So phonological awareness is the awareness of speech sounds, syllables, and rhymes, that kind of play that we do with language. And then phonics is the mapping of the speech sounds, so turning those sounds into print and the letters that represent those sounds. And what they, in their analysis, so what they were focusing on was recognizing and naming all of the uppercase and lowercase letters, foundational skills for kindergarten. And in their analysis, they determined that their action plan worked, especially in conjunction with the kindergarten intervention program, which is implemented by Maureen Smith. Her TK students go home at 12:30, and she spends the remainder of the afternoon pulling small groups strategically to help them work on these concrete skills. Next slide, please, Mrs. Walker. And then this is the kindergarten action plan. And so they are going to focus on blending. And I brought a tool. I'll be right back.
It's very exciting. We have props.
I know. Well, sometimes you never know what Mr. Kale's going to bust out. Okay. So blending, taking those sounds, putting them together, and being able to put them together in a word. So they have all these different strategies that they have listed there, puzzle pieces, train tracks, Elkoning boxes, but this is super popular with our kids right now, the poppets. So taking those isolated sounds, for example, with the word cat, and putting them together, k, a, t, and being able to do that fast, k, at, and blending those sounds together so that they can read words. So with all of our teams, they're focusing on hands-on instruction, but I thought that was a fun one that wouldn't have occurred to me. Thank goodness they're doing the teaching. And the way that they're going to assess that is using a particular assessment called the Core Phonics, and students will be reading CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonant, just like the one that I modeled to you there. And if you want to play with my poppet while you're up there, you can. And then for first grade, please, Mrs. Walker. Again, they saw growth in lots of different areas, and they actually gave you more than two specific areas where they saw growth. And in their analysis, they noted that the strategies that they had chosen in the previous action plan, that they were successful. And they really focused on games, assignments, oral practice, implementing lots of playful activities in the classroom to help the students get engaged and have that success. Small group instruction, centers, it's all really at the heart of what they're doing in first grade. And then the next slide is their action plan. And their action plan, they specified 3 different standards, and they married those together, which I thought was a great idea. So they're asking and answering questions with guidance and support from adults, recalling information, and demonstrating a command of conventions of standard English. So what they would like to have students do, the assessment that they're going to do, is having students answer a question in writing using proper punctuation. So they're taking all of those standards, assessing it one way. But as you can see, there's all those different strategies that they're going to have students work on, journal writing, center activities, again, sequencing, graphic organizers, so things that can be differentiated, done one-on-one, small group, and whole group. And then last is our second grade team. They noted some particular growth with high frequency words, and those are the words that appear most commonly, in addition to phonological awareness and phonics. And their analysis shows that the plan that they implemented the first trimester, or throughout the second trimester as well, was in fact successful. So it's really exciting to watch the teachers note their own growth, because knowing that the hard work that you're putting in is paying off is going to help motivate them moving forward as well. And then their action plan on the next slide. They are again going to continue focusing on the high frequency words and phonics because even we are seeing some growth there. The kids do need some more support with that, specifically on long and short vowels for phonics and vowel teams. And they're going to do that by providing differentiated work, games, direct instruction, and personal word walls. So you may have seen a word wall in a classroom where we've got a collection of all the most commonly used words that start with A, B, C, etc. These are personalized. That's usually a folder that kids can keep in their desk. One of the things that's tricky for kids at Redwood age is being able to track from something far away, and to put that onto their paper can be tricky. So having that personal word wall means it's right there, and they can utilize that. They can also add important words like their brother's name or the name of their favorite restaurant so that they can utilize those words in their writing. And they are going to assess by the iReady information as well as doing some dictation. If they dictate a sentence to their students, are they using those things that they've learned as evidence in their sentence? Those are our kindergarten, first and second grade growth and action plan. As I said, there's a lot going on at Redwood. I anticipate that we'll continue seeing this really good growth over the course of the year. But I'm really proud of our students and of our teachers. Do you have any questions that I can address?
Any questions?
I'd just like to say I like your rainbow earrings and great job at Redwood.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
really. Thank you for sharing. And I just can't get over how much success kids are having, because I remember still like napping in second grade. I mean, these kids are dictating. I mean, to have a first grader writing with proper punctuation, that's pretty impressive. So thank you.
And I have to just hats off to both Mr. Kale and Ms. Erickson, because what we've really done with the staff and mobilizing them to seriously look at data and to use that data to make those decisions. And Kelly has been a wonderful instrument to be able to bring that to our teams so that folks understand why and how and the whole process of making data-informed decisions. So thank you both for leading that charge.
Absolutely. And I also want to toot the horns of our TOSAs, Leanne
Absolutely.
Burkwall and Janice Sverko, the preparation that they put into preparing all the documentation for the teachers so that they could really dive in made all the difference. So.
Thank you. So before we have Dana Gray, Principal Rick Kale come forward, we have no one in person. That's probably why I forgot our disclosures. But if we do have anyone watching and you would like to have a public comment regarding benchmarks, please do submit prior to the meeting or during at board meeting at fbusd.us, and staff will attempt to share with us during the meeting. So just wanted to make sure people know that we are checking in during the meeting, and we will invite Mr. Kale up to present for Dana Gray.
Thank you very much.
We don't have any, I'm assuming we have no public comment.
We have no public
Okay,
comment.
thank you.
So I would echo what Lundy said. Amazing, amazing work from our teachers and from our TOSAs and from the kids. You know, it has been, it's been a really strong discussion about we collect data, and then the question is, how do you use that data to move forward? How do you analyze it as you're going? Because each year we're building the plane, you know, as we're flying it, and each year is so very different. So we have to adjust completely as we go along. So this was, again, a great process of looking at the first set of data, looking at the second set of data, and then coming up with, did it work? Did it not work? And what are we going to do about it? What was interesting is one of the teams actually found a section that didn't work. And I thought that created the most amazing conversations of like, whoa, it didn't work. We thought it was going to, but what, you know, what are we going to do? How are we going to make sure that these kids know this stuff? So let's go to the first slide, if we would, please. In the same way, we have data statements and data analysis and then an action plan, the same kind of design. You can see in the data statement that in third grade, the feeling was we did a lot of great work. the percentage of students on or above grade level from 29% to 38% on the second diagnostic. That's huge growth. The percentage of students who performed at the mid or above level, that the ones that were lower went, like we moved up a huge amount, 9 to 21%. So that was fantastic. If you see in the data analysis piece, it's the second bullet point, it says showing growth in every ELA standard. And they want to continue this work at a vigorous pace and with high expectations. One of the tools that we've used that has been really powerful is the iReady assessment. And the way that the iReady assessment then leads students to their learning path, at their level, is really causing students to make incredible jumps forward. So let's look at the action plan from third grade. It's the next slide. Okay. So third grade has really moved forward because we noticed a problem with phonics in the third grade. And so we bought some books that were to focus on that. And you can see in the strategies to continue using those primary phonics books, continue to focus on the standards of reading comprehension. They had come up with the RACE format. And again, RACE is a way of looking at questions in a reflective manner. It stands for restate the question, answer the question, cite evidence, and then explain your answer. So they're continuing in the third grade with that strategy, and also to implement more I notice and I wonder activities, which is a great reflection piece that really they've discovered through multiple sources, but Kelly Smith has led them to that I notice, I wonder activities as a way to get kids into an entry point rather than just jumping to the answer. What do you notice about the question? What do you notice about the problem? And what do you wonder about it? And begin to think about things reflectively. So again, the action steps, adding additional I notice, I wonder activities, continue with the RACE writing assignments and the primary phonics books. They believe if you look, how will you know the step has worked? Well, they're gonna know because the iReady is going to continue to improve. There's going to be, of course, anecdotal observations, and our ORR tests also show comprehension, reading comprehension improvement as well. So grade 4. This is the grade that was interesting. If you look at the two standards, 4.3 and 4.6, there was an increase. This is describe in depth a character, setting, or event in a story. There was an increase in that standard specifically with 6 students that were now performing at mastery that weren't previously. But if you look at 4.6, they actually see, and it surprised me, they put it in here, they had regressed. They'd gone backwards. So it really fired up the conversation. Wait a minute, why did it regress? And if you look at the data analysis below, and this is just a summary of their really extensive conversation, we are wondering about the delivery of the questions and how the students must answer in iReady. This really got us to a point, and even as a staff group, of talking about, teachers, have you ever taken the test? And they never have. They've never taken the test themselves. So they don't know, if you don't know how the question is asked or the way that it's asked, that's what they're talking about in delivery of questions, how do you know that you're teaching it in the right way? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And they really kind of powerfully came to that moment. It's like we are teaching it in a certain way, but they may be asking the questions in a different way that lead the students off in a kind of different direction. So other ideas that they came up with, they were talking about where they decreased in ability, was it due to the longevity between the lesson and the diagnostic? And you can see the lesson in November and the diagnostic beginning in January. So they were really looking at the timing of when, the timing and the pacing of when they're delivering this instruction related to the assessment. Then the conversation in 4th grade really went to, and I think this is endlessly interesting for us, about informational text. It says students are not exposed to reading informational text as often, and even less exposed to first-hand or second-hand accounts. And if you look at 4.6, it says compare and contrast a first-hand account with a second-hand account. If you think about how did they ask that question is the first thing the teachers were thinking about. And then we need to give them more informational text. So if we go to the next slide, here's their action plan, which is interesting. They want to, if you look at the strategies part in the box on this side, it says teachers really want to focus on reading informational text in their leveled groups, reading more of them. There's lots of focus on stories, but not that much focus on informational text. And we had great conversations about when to be successful in a high school science class, they're not going to need to read a story. They're going to need to read informational text. And that's where they really, like, the sort of the meat of it comes. So we need to prepare them more for that. They want to give more iReady assignments specifically on informational text. They want to create things like dioramas and Google Slides, Jamboards on informational text. They want to create storyboards about informational text, and they want to continue to use that RACE strategy. Each of the 3 grade levels, 3, 4, 5, have really dedicated themselves to that RACE strategy, that reflection about questions before you begin answering them. If you look at the action step, this is the part that really got me. We are all responsible. We're all responsible. And that's great. That really resonated across all the grade levels. We will find more appropriate, high-interest, instructional leveled reading. Why that? Just to go back to we are all responsible, it's very hard to admit when things didn't work out right, and that time to analyze the why, the why. We're not blaming each other. We're not saying, oh, I know how to do it. You guys just didn't know how to do it. It's more about looking at each of our teaching practices and figuring out how to do better for all of us. Multiple checks for understanding. And again, how will you know this step will work? iReady Diagnostic will show improvement in the standard. We've also made plans, and it's tricky. It's really tricky because we need to figure out how to create dummy accounts, we want teachers to be able to take the test, but they can't go in and take it for a kid because then it'll cause their learning path to go on to a funny way, if that makes sense. So we have to be able to figure out a way just logistically how to do that. The other thing we even talked about, which was really interesting, is like, if Mr. Kale takes the 3rd grade diagnostic test, what if he doesn't do well, right? And how do you handle that? Like, wow, that's like a big moment. And as we all know with these tests, it's often the way the question is asked, and we can learn so much about teaching, and the combination of teaching and assessment in this process. Next slide. So, 5th grade observed improvements in our focus standards. That was 5.2, and they will continue, it's in the second sentence there, they will continue using the shared RACE graphic organizers that we've shared across the grade level. The data analysis, we saw growth in our focus standards of 5.1, RL 5.1, RI 5.1, and it says what they are there. And we're expecting to see more growth. How will the ideas of what we should use, we need to really focus on small group instruction, continuing using graphic organizers like RACE. By the way, they were working separately in groups when they were talking about the RACE graphic organizer. So they see that. It's just kind of powerful when they're working as a team, and sometimes they don't realize it until they come back and share. And they're like, yeah, we like that too. Mm-hmm. Like, wow, that was really, really cool. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the last slide, action plan. Again, you can see the standards that they're focusing on. Their strategies, they're going to continue differentiation in the small groups, smaller steps of instruction and directions organized into those steps. They're going to continue to use RACE. They're continue to use leave-in or leave-out strategies, plot organizers, timelines, using chronological order and order of events. They're going to focus on context clues and looking for context clues in reading and creating vocabulary maps. Again, they, of course, how it will work. Well, we'll look at the ORR, the oral reading record, and the iReady diagnostic. They'll also be focusing on vocabulary maps and see how their understanding of the words are developing. So there you go. Again, the process for us, and just to let the board know how hard the teachers worked at this. This is just a slight reflection of the depth of conversation and how those conversations continue. Again, in the same way, what is great is they're not leaving this. This is their piece of reflection, going back and looking at the material and really creating deep conversations about data, where their kids are at, and how do they get them to the next step. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions?
So I just had a question, I guess, for both of you. In your actions plan slides under the, I need my glasses, Mike, the when, who, how, you guys didn't answer the who. So I'm wondering, like, who's responsible? I assume it's teacher and kids. I mean, it's everybody, right? So it seems like a funny question to ask in that slide. It's not really a question, more of an observation. Like, it seems like everyone would be responsible, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
You're right. I mean, everyone would be responsible. Going back to that one bit, we are all responsible.
Right.
They were attempting to answer the who, you know. Oftentimes when you're creating agenda for meetings or whatever, you come up with specifically like, you know, Rick Hale's going to do this,
Right.
and Lundy Erickson's going to do that. What I really like is that, yeah, we see that everyone is equally responsible.
And what about families? Like, is there any, like, can parents get involved in this in any way and help their kids if they know more of what they're doing? This is something to think about. This is not a question. I'm not expecting an answer.
It's a great question.
You know, because it's like we're getting such a great organized way of assessing and benchmarking and coming up with these action plans to improve, but I don't know if the parents have any idea what's going on. Well, I guess really not behind the scenes, behind their scenes, I guess. So just something to think about of how
It's a great-
maybe they can help
It's a
support.
great
and-
question.
It's a great comment and great question. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is that when we are doing our benchmarking, it coincides with the reporting periods. So teachers have the opportunity to share this data with their parents. So it's not just we're doing this at some random time.
Right.
So the second trimester just ended, and this data will be with the report cards. Yes or no? No?
I don't like sent home with the report cards.
But it's used to,
It's definitely informed the marking.
yes.
Whether students have mastered distances.
So, and any parent can ask for these, for their their child's iReady results as well. So what I like about it is that, like I said, it coincides with the grading period, and the teachers use this information to help determine how the progress report is reported.
And does all of this go into the ARIES data?
So
reporting?
the iReady, we're working on getting iReady into Illuminate. I don't think we've successfully done that yet. They're supposed to talk together, but what we discover is that when they say they're supposed to talk together, they just don't play really well together. So we have the iReady information in iReady, and it's pretty easy to pull up. So we've been keeping that together. We're going to be, as teachers get new students every year, they can look back and see their iReady scores from previous years. So I like that as well. It gives the teacher some ability to say, you know, have they always been on grade level? Did they do this big push, or have they always been behind? Or so I like what we're doing as far as gathering and collecting and keeping data. As far as ARIES is concerned, we're not necessarily putting it into ARIES. The report cards are getting placed into ARIES, and they are being submitted through ARIES. So those scores are going to be kept in perpetuity, which is better. The teachers used to have to go into the CUME to see what past report cards are, and now they can look at all that with a keystroke, which is pretty great. So we just have to remember, as a collective administrative agency, that we hit the button in ARIES, Sarah Bushnell, so that teachers can go back and look at previous grades.
To answer that question, because it's a great question, when you receive a report card and it says satisfactory or unsatisfactory, you know, that's a really wide range. Like, what does that mean? Like, you as the teacher of my child, I'd say, okay, can I have a bit more? What's awesome about iReady, and how we'll get more and more in depth in it, it has amazing parent reports that are in it, and teachers are using, when you hang out in a teacher conference with you know, parent teacher conference, they're using that as the basis of their conversation, just like you were talking about. You explained what phonics was, and those kinds of conversations are what are going on in teacher conferences.
Right.
And they can see that kind of granular improvement of students. as we get deeper and deeper into it, we can begin to understand the why. And I really feel the pain of my teachers of like, tell me, you know, this student scored really well on this, but they scored really badly on that. Was that one question that did that? Was it 2 questions? Was it the words of the question? Like what, and they've never, again, we're a year and a half, 2 years into this. They haven't experienced that part yet. And we're relying on a lot of that automated aspect of the assessment because it's too big. Like we can't create an assessment that is that powerful so quickly. But anyway, the conversation and the learning of parents is really powerful. So those reports will be going home. You know what I mean? Like that's how parents can learn from this.
It would be cool if it would probably be a whole nother level of work, but to what you were saying, Scott, that if parents had not only all this, but going back to when I used to do homework with my girls and they'd say, well, we're supposed to use race. And I'm like, I don't understand what race is and what that means. I know what race is, but not in this context. So, you know, how do I do that? Or all of the different strategies, it would be really great just to have a little, you know, readout so that when you're helping your child, you can say, well, let's think about what's a reflection. So I understand that's what you're doing in class. So let's run through one of those just to help solidify and back up what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
I don't know how you get that out there in a easy way, but nothing's easy.
Well, the thing for me to really think about is even if you think back a year or 2 years, where we were with data, we were struggling to make our own benchmarks, you know, where we're like, and this question's good and this question's bad. We were struggling how to put, and we still struggle, how to put things in Illuminate. We had these sort of disjunctive systems. Now that we've settled on this one, we can begin to refine it and make it more powerful. So, yes.
Yeah, just nice if parents had access to. But I love this. And I love that you are using the informational text. Because kids, you know, you read a story, and we all know when you get going good in a story, I just skip over those words. I kind of know what was there. But informational text, that's a whole different ballgame. So that's great you're starting them young.
Thank you.
Very good.
Any other questions?
Just a quick comment, I guess, for Superintendent Walker. So we've been hearing about Kelly Smith for a long time. If there's ever an opportunity, and I know I can go into a class and supervise or whatever, watch, but if there's ever an opportunity to hear from her or get her thoughts or reflections on the district and how things are going.
I will invite her to our April 21st board meeting.
Oh, that'd be great.
That would be
I'd love
great.
to meet her and hear from her. And
You got it. You got it.
And if you can ever follow her on one of her,
right.
oh, yeah, it's amazing.
If anybody would like to participate in one of the instructional rounds, to just walk in classrooms and she'll guide you through it, but they spend only 7 minutes in each classroom and the kids are used to it. It's so amazing now. I'll walk into a classroom where people used to look at me, no one cares. So it's pretty great.
Especially if you have your name tag, they just know you're supposed to be there instead of the pointing. But I did that once through middle school pre-pandemic, and it was pretty amazing. The tasks and the skills and just the cues were subtle. Everyone knew what
Well, you
was
could go
happening.
to any student and say, so what are you working on? Well, they go into detail. It's not, I don't know, blame. You know, it's not like that at all anymore. So that's really,
Yeah, the engagement
she's been amazing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
is high. So thank you very much for attending this special meeting. And I believe if there are no public comments.
There is no public comment. And, you know, good job to both of you. It's 6:43.
6:43, and we reconvene to closed at 6:43.
Thank you both.
Oh, do we
Perfect.
need to take action on this? No, it's
There's no action. This was a
No
report.
action, just a special.
But
Yeah.
someone does need to make a motion to adjourn.
Well, we're reconvening
that's
to
right, that's
close,
right.
so we don't adjourn
so we
yet.
adjourn.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Right?
Good night. Thank you.